What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. Welcome into take 2 of this video here, where we're going to be doing some slider clarification, and we're basically going to be covering each of the sliders in the game and what increasing them and decreasing them will do for you guys. Now, the reason that I'm making this video in the first place is because I continue to see quite a few incorrect comments in the comment sections on my videos, especially sliders videos, regarding sliders being incorrect, or rather people having a differing opinion of what a specific slider does. And so I want to offer some clarification there that the game offers for us, and based on data and proven gameplay and things like that. And the reason that I'm doing a take 2 of this video is because I identified some audio issues in the first take of the video. So hopefully this time around my voice isn't going to be all crackly and stuff like that. For whatever reason, the expensive mic that I bought was having some bad issues. So what you're going to want to do in order to actually see these proper descriptions for sliders in the game is you're going to want to go into a custom game and hop into it. You can't do a pre-selected game that's on that screen, so you don't want to pick any like the playoff games and things like that, because it won't let you actually go into a game and see these sliders. But we're going to go ahead and hop right into basically just a straight up exhibition match, custom game, 2 randomized teams. And then as soon as you get into the game, you should be able to hit pause and you'll be able to go over to the game options and be able to see the sliders. And this is the screen where it's actually going to show you some descriptions for the sliders, because in most of the other screens, and actually I think all of the other screens where you can see the sliders and edit the sliders in the game, it doesn't actually offer any description for what those sliders are and what turning them up and turning them down does. We go ahead and hold X to skip past this phase. And so essentially the key here is that this screen, I don't know why they have it embedded in simply just a quick match like this and not actually out on the main menu whenever you can edit the sliders and things like that, or in a franchise mode. But when you go to settings here, they have it embedded here. So if you go to game options, for example, and you scroll down to these sliders, they offer up there in the top right explanations for what each of these sliders does. Likewise for the player skill and CPU skill sliders, there are actual explanations for what most of these sliders do, and some of them are really in-depth and help clarify a lot of things. Now, I've made an entire video dedicated to the injury slider itself, because this is one that has been hotly debated amongst the community for a long time, and you know, we have a definitive answer in the game here that specifically says a setting of 0 will disable them entirely. And so I'm going to run through, like this injury slider, every single slider in this game, and we'll show you guys and describe to you guys exactly what we know that these sliders do when you increase them and decrease them. So to start off, like I said, injuries, this modifies the overall chance of injuries happening in a game, and a setting of 0 will disable them entirely. So when you turn them down, you will acquire less injuries during a game. When you turn them up, you will acquire more injuries in the game. Now, in my latest slider video, I think I have them set to 41, which is relatively high, all things considered, because I think the game base sets it at like 20 or 25. So we like to have it at 41 because we see injuries more often, and that's quite a bit more realistic. But I'm not going to talk about exactly what we run on every single slider. I am going to talk about some of the major ones that are debated, like the injury slider. This one specifically, we have a very good description of what's going on with that slider. Likewise, with the fatigue slider and the player speed parity scale, which is also in other menus referred to as the player speed threshold, there are good descriptions as to what these sliders do. So for fatigue, modify the amount of fatigue applied to players during gameplay. A lower value means players will fatigue slower. So if you want to increase fatigue on your players, if you want to increase how often they rotate out and things like that because of fatigue, how many plays they can run before they get fatigued, if you want to increase fatigue in general, you're going to increase this slider up. If you want to lower fatigue, if you want to prevent your players from getting fatigued as quickly or as often, you're going to lower this slider down. That one's pretty straightforward. So is the player speed threshold or player speed parity scale. If you increase or decrease the minimum in-game speed for players here, a lower number is going to create a greater separation between the fastest and slowest players. Now, I don't think there's a whole lot of debate here with this slider. I think most people understand that if you turn the player threshold down, the faster players are going to seem way faster than the slow players, and the slow players are going to seem really, really slow. If you turn this slider up, you're going to see a much greater comparison between player speed. A player with 85 speed is going to seem very much the same as a player with 90 speed. If you turn this up, it kind of evens out what their speeds do. Leaving it at 50 kind of leaves it at what the base game gives you, but leaving it at 50, as many people have pointed out, it's going to essentially allow slower players to catch up to faster players in certain situations. If you're returning a kickoff, for example, and you've ever noticed that you get chased down from behind by another player, that's probably because your player speed threshold is set too high and your fast player isn't allowed to run away from the players that are trying to chase them down. So that's what the player speed parity or player speed threshold slider is going to do for you guys. Next sliders that we're going to look at, the CPU skill and player skill, they offer the same sliders and same descriptions for each slider. So I'm just going to go ahead and go into the player skill and evaluate from here. Now there are some sliders here that do not give a very good description. So what you guys will see here, quarterback accuracy, it simply states that this slider adjusts how accurate the quarterback is. It doesn't specifically state turning it down or turning it up makes any specific type of difference. However, there's a lot of research, a lot of data out there, a lot of gameplay. The higher this is, the more accurate a quarterback is. So turn it up if you want an accuracy increase for quarterbacks. Turn it down if you want an accuracy decrease for quarterbacks. This is why you see in a lot of slider sets for CPU gameplay, you see the quarterback accuracy turned down, because CPU quarterbacks are really accurate. They hit like 90 to 100% of their passes, and turning this way down tends to very severely impact how accurate they can be. Likewise, with the pass blocking slider, it's not very specific. It just says that this slider affects how effective pass blocking is. So if you turn this slider up, you're going to have much more effective pass blocking. It's going to prevent the pass rush. You'll have more time in the pocket to throw the ball. Likewise, if you turn it down, you'll have less time in the pocket, and your pass blockers will be much less effective. Now I'm going to skip wide receiver catching to go to run blocking because it acts exactly the same as pass blocking. You're going to turn it up in order to make your run blocking more effective, open up more holes for your running back, get a better push on the offensive line. You're going to turn this down to receive worse run blocking and prevent as many big holes from opening up. And so what you guys will notice is in a lot of leagues and a lot of slider sets, the run blocking settings are turned down because it is pretty easy, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinion, to run the ball in this game. It's pretty easy to get open holes and things like that. So in a lot of slider sets, you guys are going to see run blocking turned down, and even in a lot of other slider sets, you're going to see pass blocking turned down to make it a little bit more challenging to move the ball on the offensive side. Now let's go ahead back to wide receiver catching here. Another one that is a bit ambiguous. It just says that this slider affects how you are catching, or how effective receivers are at catching the football. So this one, again, straightforward. You're going to increase wide receiver catching if you want them to hang on to the ball more, and you're going to decrease wide receiver catching if you want them to drop more passes. Now, this is a slider that you don't have to change a lot to see a drastic difference. An increase of 1 or 2 points is going to mean the difference between 70% catching and 95% catching. I mean, it's drastic. You turn this up a little bit, you're going to see a lot more catches, and you turn this down a little bit, you're going to see a lot more drops from receivers and tight ends and things of that nature. So keep in mind that whenever you're looking at the wide receiver slider setting. Now, the next setting that we're going to talk about, the next slider that we're going to talk about, is one of the most controversial in the game that a lot of people still debate, but I want to state here that we have one of the most descriptive, I guess one of the best descriptive descriptions is how I'm going to put it, for what the fumble slider does. This slider adjusts the ability for you to hold on to the ball, move this to the left to cause more fumbles. So very simply put, it starts out at 50. If you turn this down, you are going to see more fumbles in your games. It is a inverse slider. It's an inverse relationship. Turn it down to see more fumbles. Turn it up to see less fumbles. And this is why you're going to see many, many slider sets with sliders for fumbling in the 70s, 73, 74, 75, because we are trying to prevent the excess amount of fumbling that happens within most franchises and most gameplay. So we turn it up to 75 and we see significantly less fumbles, and it is much more difficult to force fumbles with hit sticks and things like that. So that's what's going on with the fumble slider. I know that that one is controversial, but again, we have an exact answer. I made an entire video about things like this. I don't really think that there's any excuse for people to have a debate on this anymore in the community, because we have a very hard and fast answer that the fumbling slider, if you turn it up, you decrease fumbles. It's an inverse relationship. Now, the next slider that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to come back to pass defense here in a moment, because those are controversial sliders, supposedly. But the rush defense slider here is pretty straightforward. If you have it set to a base of 50, you're going to see pretty average tackling. If you increase it, you're going to see much more effective tackling. You're going to see less broken tackles. If you decrease the tackling slider, again, this is a pretty straightforward slider. If you decrease tackling, you're going to see more broken tackles and less effective tackling, less hard hits, all of those types of things. So that's extremely important. And I see a comment on the video, so hopefully my voice isn't lagging this time around in this take of the video. Next, we're going to go on to special teams. These ones are all very straightforward. If you increase field goal power, you're going to see an increase in the distance with which you can kick field goals. If you decrease field goal power, you're going to see a decrease in the range of field goals, or how far away you can kick them from. Field goal accuracy, likewise, if you increase it, you will increase your ability to accurately kick field goals. If you decrease field goal accuracy, you are going to make it more difficult to accurately kick field goals. You'll see more missed kicks if you lower the field goal accuracy slider. Likewise with punt power, the more you increase it, the further you can kick it. The more you decrease it, the shorter you'll be able to actually punt the football. Punt accuracy, same thing as field goal accuracy. If you increase it, you'll be able to more accurately place your punts, more accurately coffin corner, and things of that nature. And if you decrease the punt accuracy slider, you are going to see more inaccurate punts, probably going out of the back of the end zone and things like that. You're not going to see as many coffin corner punts. And so that's why you see some of the adjustments that you will often see with field goal power and accuracy, punt power and accuracy, because there are things going on within the game that make, maybe punting's too OP, or maybe kicking's too OP, and so a lot of times you'll see a lot of these sliders be reduced in comparison to the base 50. And then the last one here before we go back to pass defense is kickoff power. Kickoff power, very similar to punt power and field goal power. The more you turn this up, the more distance you're going to get on your kickoffs, and if you turn it down, you're going to get less distance on your kickoffs. So this one is one that I think a lot of people turn up, simply because in the NFL nowadays you don't see as many kicks returned like you used to, or very often you see kicks just going out of the back of the end zone. So most of the time people will turn this up just to have kicks go out of the back of the end zone most of the time. Now we're going to come back to pass defense here. First, we're going to talk about the interception slider. It is widely known that if you increase the interception slider, you are going to pick off the ball more. Your defensive backs, when the ball hits their hands, they're going to come down with those interceptions more if you have interceptions turned up. If you have interceptions turned all the way down, you guys are going to see a lot less interceptions. You're going to see the ball hit defenders in the hand, and they're going to drop it often. If you guys watch any of my RDFL gameplay, this is very apparent. You guys will see a lot of dropped interceptions, because in user versus user gameplay, it's really easy to come up with interceptions at times, and so we don't want gaudy interception numbers that are off the charts, and so we turn interception slider down in order to prevent the number of interceptions that are happening. However, what we do in our leagues is we turn our pass defense reaction time and our pass coverage up into the 60s. And what this does is this increases the effectiveness of pass coverage. You will see tighter pass coverage and better reactions on the defensive side of the ball when you turn the pass defense reaction time up and the pass coverage slider up. So this is one that we've specifically gotten quite a few comments on, that people say it is inverse when it is not. If you turn this down, you are going to see worse coverage. If you turn this down anywhere below 50, you're going to see worse than base coverage and worse than base reaction time. This is really really important for you guys to know because we run this in the RDFL. It is very apparent, and if you guys want to test it out yourselves, turn it all the way to 0 and play a game, turn it all the way to 100 and play a game, and there is a very clear distinction. When you turn up reaction time and turn up pass coverage, it makes the coverage better. When you turn down pass coverage and turn down reaction time, it makes the coverage worse. And this is proven through gameplay, through data, through the community. There are a lot of people that still debate this, and when I searched it up, there were some debates going on in forums regarding it, but it is simply not the case that if you turn it down, that would somehow increase pass coverage. That just simply does not happen. That is not the truth, and I want to dispel that myth here and now. And if you guys want to test it out yourselves, feel free, but we've run hundreds of games, and having this turned down makes pass coverage worse. Having it turned up makes pass coverage better, and the difference is very apparent and very clear. So I just wanted to simply put out this video and make this redo attempt basically straightforward because the first attempt, obviously I mentioned that my mic was going wonky and it was cutting out and it was like all crackly and stuff like that. So I think I've got my microphone issues sorted out. Hopefully this video is helpful to somebody. Hopefully this video gets spread around, and hopefully you guys will spread it around and help dispel some of the myths and debates that are going on within the community, because for a lot of these sliders that are controversial and debatable, like the fumble slider, we have a very clear, distinct answer as to whether turning it up or turning it down makes a difference. Likewise, for the injury slider that for some reason I see a lot of debate on, there's a ton of debate out there, but we have a very distinct answer there. It says the setting is 0 will disable them entirely. So clearly, turning them down gives you less injuries. So again, I just hope that you guys help me get this message out there to dispel these myths. I don't know why EA isn't clear on these things. I don't know why you have to go into a custom game to find the sliders, to do it this way, to see the descriptions, to be able to figure out what these things actually do. It's kind of absurd that you have to do this crazy jumping through hoops to actually find this. Out on the main menu, it doesn't actually give you those same descriptions to be able to see what those sliders do. But I'm here to give you guys that information. Hopefully it helped you guys out. Make sure you guys leave a like on the video. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you're new. Make sure you hit that bell icon if you haven't already so you're notified whenever I upload my new videos. Make sure you leave your comments down below, and make sure you guys have a good night. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.